Hey friends, it's Monday again and it's time for the fourth part of the Google UX course review. And as usual, I've done all the exercises and I finished the course, so my review is actually based on doing the course and not just quickly skimming through it. This time the theme is all about conducting user research based on the wireframes and the interactive prototypes that we did in part 3 of the course. Now, I think I've said everything about how bad the UX of Coursera really is in all of the previous videos, so just a reminder, if you're new to this course or to this review, don't think that because Google is using a platform for their UX course that the platform automatically has good UX. Don't assume any of the patterns you see on Coursera are good UX because there mostly just aren't. So yeah, don't get inspired. Okay, back to the course. I like that there's a natural progression between all the sections from part 2 up until now, that you've been doing the initial planning, then the initial wireframes, very preliminary designs, a prototype, and now it's time to see how you can test that prototype to actually be able to see if it makes sense or if you should adjust it or if the project itself doesn't make any sense at all. But now it's time for a little disclaimer, because of course Google is doing this course to be making new Google employees and using patterns that are very true for big corporations, but in the real world, most companies that you're probably gonna apply to are medium and small, and some of these processes don't really work the same way in those companies, mostly because they don't really have the budget to do research on every step of the way. And of course that would be an ideal scenario, that would be just awesome, and this is something we should all strive for, but you can't really go over the lack of money. So the smaller businesses usually conduct research as they go. They quickly test a minimum viable product or a prototype, but then they go quickly to release to market as fast as possible, and then they adjust it as they go with real data and testing on real users. In reality, if you're thinking that as a UX designer you'll be doing research a lot, then it's not really the case, especially in smaller companies. So of course in the big corporations there are dedicated research teams and they're researching everything. But in reality, what you're gonna be doing is actually building those prototypes, building those wireframes, building those flows and those high fidelity designs especially, and testing on them will be done a lot of times after they actually launch to the public. But it also means that if you love research and you think that research is gonna be the main thing that's attracting you to UX design and you really want to be a researcher, then in your job search you should be focusing on bigger companies because they mostly have the budgets to do proper research, many rounds of it, and many types of it even in one project. So if you're research oriented, just avoid smaller companies because in many cases they simply won't be doing enough of it to keep you interested. So yeah, welcome to the real world.
Welcome to the desert of the real.
It's important to note that the difficulty level goes up again and pretty significantly. So the last one, the third part, I actually did all the exercises in about an hour. This time it took me 2 hours to complete all 4 peer graded exercises, submit them, and be done with this practical part of the course. Then of course I went back and watched all the videos and read all the materials to be sure that they communicate it all in a clear, accessible and understandable way. And I have to say that this time I don't really have a lot of problems with any of the material. It's still very Google, so if you're aware of that and you're ready to take into account that for some smaller companies you might actually have to strip parts of these processes away completely, you should be fine. Just remember that you still need to learn a little bit on the side because Google only covers a specific way of doing things. Not everybody, not every company is actually doing them that way. And if you're very new to this course, like just started with the Google Foundation and never had any UX experience before, I think that this part of the course, part 4, is actually likely gonna take you about a month to complete. Because this is really more difficult, more time consuming, and to do it right and to have a proper portfolio at the end of it, you really need to commit to that. Peer grading, as usual, is a horrible idea, and I've said in the previous videos that I believe that Google should hire somebody from their company to actually grade those assignments, even if the courses were more expensive in the end, because the result would be just a lot better. But luckily this time I haven't encountered any kind of cheating, so all the assignments that I had to grade were actually very thought out, very precise, and people actually, I could see that they've put the time and effort, and many of them were so big and so robust that it shows that it took them probably days to complete those. And it's really nice to see that. It's really nice to see that dedication and ambition that people put into the course. So let's hope the cheaters are not gonna destroy it for them. But all of that difficulty increase leads to an even bigger drop-off. Remember how we all started at about 30,000 people, and then in course number 3 it went down to like 300 to 400? Well, right now it's about 100 people actively taking part of the course and talking on the forums, and that also means that after I uploaded my assignments, it took about 8 hours for all of them to be graded, and in many cases I didn't really have any assignments to grade myself because I still had to wait for people to complete theirs. So bottom line, if you're a beginner and you've gotten this far, congratulations, because this is really getting difficult, and this is really getting to a point where you need to be very motivated to continue. Just remember to learn a lot outside the course and continue your educational journey here, because this course is not enough to be a versatile designer that you could work in practically every company. And if you're a mid-level designer and you already know your stuff, then this course should be a little bit more difficult, but still pretty easy to complete. You only need to complete the 4 peer-graded assignments. They took me 2 hours, but if you're mid-level, that might take you about 8 to 10 hours to complete the entire course, but still it's gonna be a lot faster. You can probably do it in a day, like a full day, than the month that it actually takes the beginners. And looking back from course number 4 back to course number 1 and 2, and how I thought about these courses and what the certificate is gonna be worth, I think that right now the certificate is only going to be worth something if you have that portfolio as well. So if you could show the entire process, like you were assigned an app in course number 2, and then you did all the wireframes, all the research and all the prototypes and everything, and wrote a dedicated detailed case study about it, then this, combined with the certificate, will actually hold some weight with the recruiters. But if you just show the certificate, I think most of them will actually think that you cheated your way through. So remember to do that portfolio project, because everybody in the industry, when they're hiring somebody, the portfolio is 99% of the success here. So if your portfolio is great, nobody's gonna even look at the certificates. They're kind of like a nice to have, but you really need to show the work. I plan to finish this entire course, so parts 5, 6 and 7, in the next 2 weeks. So let me know in the comments if you'd like me to actually do weekly reviews of them, so each part would be a separate video, or should I just go over them all at the same time in about 2 weeks. And I also plan to talk to some larger companies that I had the pleasure to work with and ask them if they're gonna actually use this certificate in their hiring process and what they think about it. So just to see what your potential employers think of this course. So is it worth taking? Are there gonna be any benefits to having the certificate? Or just having a nice and big portfolio is gonna be enough, and still it's gonna be holding a lot more weight than certificates, courses, classes and everything else. So as usual, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video, and I'm gonna catch you guys in the next one. Cheers!